If you really thought that I would miss the opportunity to roast all the terrible books I read last year, you are very much mistaken. Hello, welcome. I have spoken quite a few times on my channel that 2024 was not a very good reading year for me. I did not read a lot of books that I particularly enjoyed, and today I'm getting my revenge. Today we're going to be roasting all of the terrible and mediocre and disappointing books that I read last year. So let's not delay any further, let's just get right into it. I know a lot of people do disclaimers at the start of these videos because people do get offended when you trash their favourite books, and I'm sure that some of you will like some of the books in this video. I'm not going to do much of a disclaimer aside from the typical, if you like these books, it's not an attack on you, we just have different tastes. If you're here, I'm assuming you clicked on this video because you want to see a roast, and that's what I'm going to give you. Should we start with my worst book of the year? I feel like we should, because that will get us off to a good old start, and that is Dig by A.S. King, which is actually heralded as quite a good book as far as the booktube community goes. Like, that's how I heard about this book, because a lot of people liked it, and I have to say, if you like this book, goodness, we're different people. It was shockingly awful. Like, oh my goodness, this book had no plot. It duped you into thinking that it was going to be a bunny-esque weird book, and it just wasn't. Sure, the stylistic choices are weird, the writing is kind of weird from what I remember, but the actual book is not weird. It's just plotless about these cousins, and it was just a really unpleasant reading experience, because I truly don't understand how you could like this book. There are some books that I read and I think, yeah, that was not for me, but I get why other people like them. This one, why do people like this? This book is so bad. It's so bad. How many different times can I say this is so bad in different phrasings? I mean, it is. It warrants it, but it had no direction whatsoever. It didn't feel like it had much thought behind it. Sure, there's kind of a societal critique, but you could argue that maybe the author wasn't the right person to make said societal critique. I don't know, I'm not, trying to start a war here, but it just was trash, really. It's trash. It deserves to go in the trash. How many ridiculous jokes am I going to make in this video? We can count them, I guess. I am not doing that. Okay, this next one is definitely going to make some of you mad. This is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Oh my goodness. Now, before you start accusing me of being a Sally Rooney hater, in my defense, I am not. One of her books, Conversations with Friends, is actually on my favourites of all time shelf. And I gave Beautiful World, Where Are You 4 stars. So you can't accuse me of hating this woman. Okay, this book was just not it though. It really, really wasn't. First of all, I struggle with the writing style. I know people love complaining about Sally Rooney's lack of quotation marks, but the thing I'm going to criticise now is the run-on sentences. When there isn't enough diversity and change in the way that a sentence is written, my brain starts short-circuiting. Also, I felt like I didn't know the characters. This is allegedly about Peter and Ivan, who are brothers. One of them's a chess prodigy. The other one is like a lawyer man, and they both get involved in relationships with women that are either a lot older or a lot younger than they are. In typical Sally Rooney fashion, I feel like she has a bit of a thing for people getting into relationships with people that are at least 10 years older than them. Like, I mean, look at Conversations with Friends and Francis and Nick. I really truly just felt like I didn't know these characters, and I spent 440 pages with them, so I should know who they are as people, and I felt like I didn't. Sally Rooney books do not have plot. I'm fairly sure that's quite a known thing at this point. I mean, a lot of litfic doesn't really have any plot, you're just following characters. When I don't care about any of the characters, then I don't care about the book, and I truly don't get why so many people have enjoyed this book this year, because I just don't think it was crafted well. It needed a lot more drafts. It felt like it didn't have an editor. Like, why did this book need to be over 400 pages when she could have given 30 more pages to Conversations with Friends? I have a whole reading vlog of this book because I truly did think I was gonna like it. I did not. I don't recommend it. Like, read any other Sally Rooney apart from this and maybe Normal People. I didn't love Normal People. This is not what I ordered. Should I continue making people mad? I suppose I should. Where is it? This is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I don't really know why I read this book, to be honest, considering my track record with romance, and I could have done without the fanfiction, although I'm not really going to speak on the fanfiction stuff in here because I'm not familiar with the lore, so I should just shut up about it, really. This is about Misery, really cheery name there, and she is a vampire, and she ends up having to have this, like, arranged marriage with this werewolf man called Lo. I can barely remember these people's names, honestly. It's been a while. They have to get married because the vampires and the werewolves kind of hate each other, and they need to do this to save face, basically. So that happens, and of course she falls in love with the alpha man. And I was quite enjoying this book until the alpha man was introduced, because the biggest problem, he had no personality. I don't know why he was the alpha, he just was. I was quite enjoying Misery's narration until about the kind of 50% mark, and then it just went downhill as the romance started to develop, I guess, and, you know, I won't go into the kind of, like, fan fiction knotting stuff, because, again, I'm not familiar with it, really, and I kind of don't want to be. I'm at peace with the fact that I'm not the right audience for this book, and maybe that's okay, but also, I don't know why people love this so much. The man needed personality. This would have been good if the man had had personality. I would have given this at least like a 3.5. Because it wasn't terrible. The man was terrible. And not like terrible as in violent or anything like that. Terrible as in, who the heck was he? And that's all I'll say about that one. Another BookTube favourite, another book that I didn't like, and that is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Now, I'd seen this book all over BookTube. Loads of people love it. I should have as well, because it's like a kind of dark academia thriller. I mean, I wouldn't really say dark academia, but it's one of the ones where they're at university, someone dies, and then 10 years later they find out the truth. It's one of those kind of books. Now, a few months before I read this one, I read The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Now, I had problems with the ending of that book. It did let down the book for me, but it did have a really, really good atmosphere, because it's set at Oxford. It's basically the same as this book, but set in England, stroke Edinburgh, which is not in England. I should have just said the UK. The thing I liked about The It Girl by Ruth Ware was the fact that it was atmospheric. It did feel like a realistic portrayal of what it would be like to go to Oxford, the kind of people that would be there, the kind of discussions that go with that. The biggest problem I had with this book, again, is that I didn't feel like I knew the characters. And if I didn't know the characters, then why should I care that some of them were being picked off and murdered? Should I have said unalived? Is YouTube going to get annoyed at me that I used the M word there? The problem I had was that I didn't care about anyone. I don't even think I can remember the main character's name. Jessica. No, wait, I did remember her name. I'm sure someone in this book is called Cooper, but that is literally all I can remember about the characters. This is unfortunately a thing that happens in a lot of thriller books. I find that the author skimps on the character work. They try and provide all these twists and turns and gags and surprising moments, and the characters are left to suffer, and that is absolutely what happened in this book. Now, I would be willing to give Ashley Winstead another chance, because I did think the writing was quite good, but the actual plot and everything needed a few more drafts. I get this is her debut, but I think it could have been better. I wasn't intrigued, and I wasn't surprised, and that's just a red flag as far as thrillers go. I'd like to say that I'm simple when it comes to this genre, but like every other book that I read, I am extremely picky. Maybe it's the book, maybe it's me, but I think it's the book. The second 1 star that I had in 2024 is Land of Milk and Honey, and this is quite different from Dig, in the sense that it is a post-apocalyptic book about this chef, and there's been this smog type thing, and that's left everyone being displaced, and this was one of those books that just feels so self-indulgent. It's only 200 and something pages, and I struggled my way through this book. I really, really struggled. And I thought I was going to enjoy this, because I normally like lit-fic books that have really nice writing. But I really just did not care. I couldn't care less about this book. This review says The way Zhang writes about food and desire and human failings is exquisite. I really didn't think so. I thought this book was pointless. And when I start questioning the point of a book, that's when I tend to give it 1 star. I mean, I do give books 1 star when they're, like, problematic and offensive, or just straight up bad, and I feel like this lent more into the what was the point kind of thing. Like, I know a lot of books don't need to have a moral message or a point, I just need to know why we're there, and this one, I had no idea. It was like eating a sickly dessert. It was just too much. You know, I'm glad I paid $8.49 for this instead of full price, but even £8 was too much for this book. And the cover is horrible as well. I mean, what is that? It looks kind of inappropriate, actually. The only non-fiction on this list is Astrophysics by James Binney. Now, one of my goals in 2024 is to, you know, read up more about science, because I do like the subject. I would like to do a degree in physics. That's why I picked up this book. I've got to say, for a book that claims it's an introduction, I've never read a piece of non-fiction that is more out of touch. You can't be calling a book an introduction when it starts yapping about relativistic astrophysics. It's not an introduction when the book requires a university degree in order to understand it. I was doing so much Googling, and not necessarily because I was interested in the subject matter. I mean, I was, but I was also Googling because this guy is terrible at explaining things. Sure, it was interesting, there are interesting things in it, but this guy is just so out of touch with, you know, introduction. I think maybe he needs to go back to school and do an English lesson so we can find out what words mean, because he clearly doesn't know. Also, just from a publishing and editing point of view, there are so many typos in this book, and I get it. Every book is going to have some sort of mistake in it, because humans aren't perfect. Even if you have 4 proofreaders, they're not all going to catch every single error. That's just humans for you. This book, A, it's like 100 pages, and B, it's kind of like academic and intellectual. And I could play a drinking game with the amount of typos in this book. I would be hammered. I would have a hangover if I turned the amount of errors in this book into a drinking game. And I just don't really feel like that's acceptable for a clever academic book published by Oxford University Press. I just don't really feel like that is acceptable. I don't know. You may disagree with me. So that was the big old book roast of 2024. I hope you have enjoyed. I'll see you next year, although I hope I don't, because I hope you'll stick around for the rest of this year's uploads, because if I do say so myself, I've actually got some quite good ideas. Hopefully I will be a little bit more consistent with uploading on the old YouTube, because I didn't really do that last year. But on the same lines as that, I am going to have a chaotic year, so that may not happen, but I hope it does. Anyway. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know what your worst books of the year were. We can continue this book roast into the comments. And I sincerely hope that I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.